Looks like the runners will be getting ready any second here. And they are off. For those of you joining us for the first time here, Boogie Percent is a shortened category from a regular Earthbound run. Normally, the game is about 4 to 5 hours, depending on your skill level. This runs on an average about 1 hour, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 20 minutes, depending on what happens in the run, and is about a quarter of the run and ends at Boogie Tent.
The game always starts off with this 1 minute and about 10-second cutscene. So it's, a nice kind of intro where it gives you a little bit of exposition.
We look forward to it every time. It's a nice 1 minute, 8-second break right before we have to jump right into it.
But you still have to get the timing precisely correct. First thing that these runners are going to do is go and get the crackbat and equip it, and that's just because they're psychic players, of course, and they know that they'll need it in the near future. And then after that, they're going to go take a look and find their best friend Pokey, who's investigating what would be a astronomical occurrence.
Pokey is that best friend to everyone that you don't need any more best friends, friend or foe.
Big thing with this meteorite walk is just optimal movement. Little bits here, how to go exactly up, down, left, and right to the least amount that you can. Will save you time in the long run. A couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, and each time you bonk, it costs a second.
This section is a great introduction section because it allows you to experiment with movement before any enemies are thrown at the screen at you. Gives you a little bit of time to get familiar with the game movement.
So what you saw on some of those runners during that walk is a thing called wall gliding. And it actually does save some time, but it's only on certain walls, and you'll figure out the ones you can and can't do it on really quick when you start bonking everywhere. Now, after we actually get going, one last thing to kind of highlight is the optimal mashing, as you can speed up text by mashing your buttons to quickly advance the text as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, there's also something called overmashing, where if you continue to mash after the text boxes have ended, you'll bring up menus. That loses time. So it's just trying to figure out exactly how many times you can mash your buttons and move as quickly as you can. There
was an interesting movement there by namux, going skipping Pokey and going straight for the door, having to pick up some extra frames for Pokey to walk to him. Now, if both runners are outside, you're going to be introduced to the three main movement types of enemies. You've got the crows, which are the swinging type of enemies that swing left to right. You've got the dogs that'll charge straight at you.
And then you also got the snakes who only move when you move. Now, a technique that you'll see them do a lot is something called despawning, and it's basically you just get the enemy model off screen just enough to essentially despawn it, try and pass unhindered.
Unfortunately for Tutelar, taking an early death on the hill walk, fortunately there's not too much of a penalty, just having to perform the walk again and avoiding a photo spot that spawns during the daytime.
Well, the neat thing is once you get picky, all the enemies disappear from the hill. So what you'll see is they'll do some more exposition, and then they'll go get a bread roll and make their way down, unhindered by enemies.
Buzz is well known for the wall of text that is given by the bee that is not a bee. Tutelar having some issues getting up the hill here, being challenged by the snake. And fortunately, Tutelar has cleared all the spawn plates and has made it to the top of the hill.
So once our runners go down the hill, they'll grab a bread roll, and then they'll encounter the first boss of the game, the Starman Jr. Now, Starman Jr. Basically is, in all intents and purposes, almost a scripted fight unless you overlevel. And that's the only way you can possibly die to that fight. What you really want to see a lot of is the Buzz going in and attacking for a lot of damage, and the Starman not using fire. Those are the best ways to save time, and the people will characterize the fight in the number of rounds it takes Buzz to defeat the Starman in attacks. Lowest is 2, most is 4.
I believe the magic level is level 8 is when Ness learns the Shield of Light. That would cancel out the Buzz psychic shield that's put up, and it takes a lot of effort to do that.
A lot of dead OS Komodos.
Ideally, from Starman Jr., you're either looking for being on guard, which is a free turn, or Freeze Alpha, which is the shortest of the two PSI attacks that Starman Jr. can use. Unfortunately, for fire attacks, you have to scroll through each of the characters in your party for the text.
Fortunately, Pokey and Piggy get in trouble with the parents, and now we're going to get a little bit more story, in addition to saying goodbye to our special friend over there.
Buzz, no! With this wall of text that Buzz is going to throw out expositionally, this is where you need to pay attention on Earthbound, because at some spots it's known for having you to press no at certain spots. And if you were to continue mashing like normal, you can very easily press yes and end up looping through the entire text box. So at points, you need to pay attention and press no at the right moments.
So for instance, in this particular Buzz, it's yes, mash, then no mash, because you can mash yes on two buttons, A and L, and you can mash no on B and select. So typically what a lot of people do is they'll just switch to smashing those two buttons individually during those special sections. Now what we're going to do now is do a basically a upgrade for our defenses by picking up a certain item or not.
Oh, interesting move.
What you can do is there's a secret shack up the top where you can pick up a Mr. Baseball cap, and what you can do is sell it for $99 and then pick up a cheap bracelet and a baseball hat, which give you overall better stats.
Looks like namux just realized he's missing that Mr. Baseball cap and trying to find the treehouse now.
So what he needs to do is actually go back up to the road toward, I believe that's a library up there.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you were to swing to the left, that is the long way around. It'll connect, but there's a lot more chances for encounters that way.
And with that, the runners are actually really close to each other now.
And we're synced.
Sometimes you can just forget the routing. I know, personally for me, sometimes I'll mess up in either PRV during one turn or 3 or winters. So. But the more experienced runners will not do that.
For this first shopping sequence here, you need $40 to add into your wallet. You can sell Mr. Baseball Cap by equipping the baseball cap and selling it back, and then you're able to buy the cheap bracelet and the T-ball bat.
Yeah, you definitely want that T-ball bat. It will make a lot of your other fights quicker. The point on my first race, I named my entire right side by the bat, so I wouldn't forget. Both runners are going into the first pogo pump fight, and typically what people will do if they charge forward on the first turn, a lot of people will heal. But these pogo punks will always drop hammers, these two setup ones.
If you end up in a situation in these fights where you have just enough health to only survive one attack, you won't be able to get the heal off in time, especially if the pogo punk goes first. On average, you need around 22 to 26 HP to mash through the text to be able to recover yourself with a life up or a healing item.
Got to say no to the yes man.
One of the fun breaking the wall type of things occurs with that Yes Man Jr. If you accidentally answer yes, they'll tell you come back after you beat Earthbound. runners now.
Go ahead.
The runners are now entering the first boss fight, official boss fight that's not really a tutorial. Frank with 63 HP. If they were to take any damage, they want to heal because Frank's knife damages can really easily take you out as a runner if you have any health taken off, especially if you were to smash.
The other thing that you typically want to do instead is you want to use your life ups first, because after you beat both Frank and Frankenstein, you can immediately get your psychic points and HP back from a rest spot that he becomes. Whereas those hamburgers, you're going to want to stock back up before going up to Giant Step anyway, so you want to take advantage of your psychic points as much as possible.
Now we're into Frankenstein Mark II here. Frankenstein Mark II is a scripted fight. Every odd turn will be a steam generating turn, basically a free turn, and every even turn will be attack, with the very first attack being a punch taking around 15 to 16 damage. After that, it'll vary between tearing into you and punching you. At this point, we still have a very close race, with both runners finishing up just on top of each other here. Story-wise, now that Ness has taken down the local gang, the Sharks, he's gonna go see the mayor and allow the mayor to take credit for the good deed that Ness did in return for getting the key to the Traveler's Shack and allowing him to go up the Giant Step.
Now, I'm assuming both runners will stop at the ATM and then fill up on hamburgers before making their way up, because those are very valuable items during the grind and the ant boss.
We now enter the only grinding part of the run, and actually, even in the full Earthbound run, it is the only grinding part as well for non-manip category. They will need to fight a total of 22 slugs to get up to level 8, which will be the point where you get Rock and Alpha, or whatever you named your favorite thing. From there, you can move on to Giant Ant and take him out with Rockin', unless you happen to be using level 9 strats. But most runners, in order for time, will be approaching at a level 8 strategy.
And the reason you want a bare minimum of level 8 is because at level 8 you learn your first offensive psychic move, Rockin'. And you most definitely need that for the Titanic Ant fight.
Now with the slug grind here, there are a couple different routes that you can take. Each runner has their own preference. Basically boils down to you can grind off of 4 packs of slugs on the bottom floors. Once you hit level 8, leave and go face the boss. The other one is get yourself 16 slugs and then go up to the top floor and grab a 6-pack of slugs and finish it off. Personally, I like to take the 6-pack approach. Do you have a preference on which style you grind with?
I definitely do the first floor approach, so I'm underneath a different opinion. And that's because my mechanics are probably a little weaker than yours. On the top floors, the stutters are a lot tighter, and there's also spawns of antoids. So you can easily get pincered, unless you're careful.
Yeah, absolutely. They could come in 2 packs of 2, which can easily be confused for 4 packs if you're not careful on what you're looking for. I'm not a favor of the 4 on the floor because sometimes you end up with the extra encounters on the way up with that difficulty stuttering around.
There's advantages to either way, so.
Absolutely.
Now, you would agree, though, that doing the first floor strats is typically a safer play for a lot of the newer runners, so. Yeah, keeping count is an important strat to really maximizing your slug grind to get through quickly. As you typically don't want to try and take any extra encounters if you don't have to. Another alternative for, again, newer runners is you can do level 9 strats, which makes Ant a lot easier and the following bosses also easier. However, you have to spend longer in your grind time.
You end up with around 90 HP and 30 psychic points, which would allow you to get 3 Rockins or 2 Rockins and 2 life up alphas. Very safe for either position.
Now, the other thing that they'll do is, as they're wrapping up this grind, is you should check your stats for a very specific number, your offense being 24. Now, that 24 stat of offense is very important because it allows you to instant win against a single antoid. Which allows you to kind of, instead of having to despawn or study rooms, sometimes you can just take a fight and just clear it out quicker. Because it only costs you 6 seconds to just auto-win a fight.
Yeah, in the second half of this dungeon, you know they're all antoids. No slugs spawn in the second half. So if you do have that magical number, you can definitely take advantage of that. Looks like Tutelar pulled it up. I missed the number. Did you catch it?
Sorry. I was checking something else at the same time. We'll know in a second. It's very uncommon to not have that 24 number, but it can happen, is the important thing.
You always feel it's more common on yourself because every time you check, it always seems like you who get the unlucky number.
I'm definitely underneath the opinion that Earthbound RNG is bad because Earthbound. This is a nice stutter, pulling him to the bottom of the room first. And the other thing in this next room with the ropes is there can be an antoid hiding underneath that rock, and you cannot auto-win if you get ambushed.
One of the mechanics of the game is green swirls and red swirls. If you catch an enemy on its back, you get a green swirl and able to take a free first turn. If you get attacked from behind, the enemy gets a free first turn. It's a mechanic that you try to take advantage of when you're more experienced in the runner side. Sometimes you get caught.
and sometimes you can force a run against, enemies that are runnable. Allows you to get out of bad rooms in a hurry by just taking a couple ambushes. More extensively used in the full glitchless version.
Unfortunately for Tutelar against Titanic Ant, Titanic had taken enough psychic points away with the drain that he was not able to get off the second rocking, which means he has a long physical attack to use there in order to try to get to that 240 HP. And if Titanic Ant uses a Shield of Light, it will cut that damage in half for 3 turns, and it will stack unless you smash through it.
Looks like Tutelar's getting the habit of overmashing. I think that's the second time he's ATM carded by accident.
Yeah, and he's not in a good position to be doing that. He probably needs to slow his inputs down just a little bit.
Getting a lucky smash, getting rid of the... Oh! I think he got the mash off, but that's showing the rolling HP meter right there.
That was a very nice mash there, and Tutelar pulling off the kill.
Namux does not have enough damage to auto-win fights against ants.
We'll see if Namux has a little bit of a better time with Titanic Ant here. Story-wise, as you leave Giant Step, you get confronted by a cop who's mad you're in there and asks you if you can read and gets mad at you when you say, no, you can't read. Tells you to come down to the station and they will deal with you there.
It's another case where a single input is better than the other one. But I always hit no because I think it's funny.
And in the manipulation route, which is not being used here, it's habit for most runners to hit no as well. Looks like Tutelar is taking a safety save here, setting him up for a closer respawn point if you happen to die in the gauntlet that is coming up. In the police station, you will have to fight a total of 4 cops and Captain Strong.
Now, personally for me, I don't really like taking that save, and that's because I figured, if I'm going to die anyways, I can just get a heal from Mom. Now, another option is if you do take that save, just go get a heal from Frank.
I feel like if I save, I'm setting myself for failure, believing I can't make it through here. The general strategy for these cops is when you get around 55 to 60 HP, you want to use a hamburger and heal up. And when you're around 30 HP, you want to use life up. You have a lot of hamburgers to use, and that's why we picked up a bunch hoping they'd make it this far. The cops themselves can do 2 attacks, a light attack, which hits for around 15, and a crushing chop, which can hit around 25 to 35, depending on your defense stat.
The cops also have a chance to drop a hamburger when you meet them. It's very low, though.
If you're low on items, you hope for that hamburger drop. The last race I was in, I burned through every single one of them, and it almost wasn't enough.
Yep, Earthbound, when enemies want to kill you, they're gonna darn well try. Oh.
Oh, the rockin' did not do enough.
That looked like another overmash to me.
In this case, Tutelar is doing what we call a soft reset, which is quitting the game and loading back into the menu. So he still has all the hamburgers that he had before dying. If you were to continue from there, you would not have all the burgers. Any items you'd use would be gone, and you would pick up from the last save spot. Now, this gives namux a large chance to catch up here. We'll see if this closes the gap, helps him out. Unfortunately, Nets also has a nasty habit throughout the ONET sequence of missing with the bat, and we hate that when that happens, but it's just something we have to deal with. On average, it takes about 3 rounds to kill a comp, unless you get a lucky smash, which you could possibly 1 round it.
As I get through these cops, you see 5 cops there, but you only have to ever fight 4 of them. Because the last one chickens out and just calls his boss on you. And this is where you ideally want to have at least 20 psychic points, because the quickest way to deal with the boss, Captain Strong, is just to rocket him twice and hopefully get hit twice. Because rocking is an attack that can miss. And when you need it to hit, it will always miss.
Unfortunately, it is the only psychic attack that is based on speed, and if the enemy were to outspeed it, that's when the miss occurs. Fun fact, though, looks like the 5th comp at one point was programmed to be a fight, because if you manage to out of bounds to it, you can actually encounter the 5th comp and fight him with a phrase like, go, go, oog. I mean, let's go.
Strong has 3 attacks as well. He's got his normal light attack. He's got his lose his temper. He can also defend. And then finally he's got his scary, scary submission hold. Looks like Tutelar is through Strong.
A 33-minute ONET with 2 deaths, that's not too bad. Let's hope namux has a good time with Strong as well. He does have 30 psychic points, so can do 3 Rockins. There is a slight chance that Rockin can miss, and miss 2 times in a row. It has happened to certain runners. But overall, you're looking to deal 150 points of damage to Strong. Once you enter Tucson, you're going to go to the department store and you're going to save at the telephone there, creating another save spot, and withdraw on average $400, $500, depending on your strategy there. And you're going to use it to give Apple Kid money and buy items in Happy Happy Village later on.
But first, what we need to do is feed Apple Kid and also finance his research, as we will run into a situation in the near future where, let's just say, we'll meet a lead wall.
Between now and reaching Happy Happy Village, both runners are going to be looking for a total of 2 butterflies in order to use a life up if they need to restore their health points after Strong and fill up their psychic points. Each butterfly restores 20, and 2 is enough to fill it up all the way. You'll notice that Tutelar did not go all the way up to the iron pencil. In order to load it into memory, you actually don't need to walk up to it. You only need to cross a certain pixel line, which will load it into memory. And that is enough for the game to trigger that you have, quote unquote, seen the pencil, and you can proceed out of Peaceful Rest Valley back to Tucson to progress the plot.
And it's a fine pixel if you're going for the pixel fine, but another safe way is just get some of the pencil on your screen. If you're looking for a guaranteed method to get it, if you're not completely comfortable with the pixel alignment method.
Yeah, overall it only loses maybe half a second. It's only 1 or 2 steps above a certain grass mark there.
Nothing's more embarrassing than them coming out of the cave and you're like, huh, I guess I have no friends right now.
Ness, all alone.
Now in Berglund Park, for those who are new, one thing you definitely want to do on the speedrun is go talk to Everdread. He's a nice guy. You definitely want to do it as soon as you get... No, I'm kidding. Don't find Everdread. and the runners will shortly be approaching the true Peaceful Rest Valley. And that area is extremely dangerous. There's a lot of spawns on the board. Getting certain despawns is tricky. You can get pinchered very, very easily. Certain mobs are very fast. Very dangerous zone, especially if you get certain fights.
Yeah, the UFOs are ones you cannot run away due to their outrageous amount of speed, but on the map, you are able to outwalk them if you're walking vertically. Horizontally, forget about it, they can catch you. Sprouts will just charge after you. The diamonds, which are whirling robos, move erratically and can very easily catch you. And the oak trees that are not firm in the ground will chase you, but you can very easily outwalk them. But if you do get in an encounter with them and you kill them, they will explode.
So the one thing is, if you're going to go for that move that Tutelar was going for there, you just want to go for it. Going up into that little alcove that you did earlier is a very dangerous thing to do, because you can get pinned in there by certain mobs.
Yeah, all it takes is a whirling robo just to move up high enough.
Now in this room, most of the snakes will run away from you, but sometimes there's a snake who, against his better judgment, goes and wants you to pet it. Unfortunately, Ness doesn't understand that petting snakes is okay too now at this point, and that snake will die, unfortunately.
In this shopping sequence, the runners will buy a minimum of the Sandlot bat, which increases their bat from 8 to 15 offense points. They'll also get the Holmes hat, which increases defense by 5 more points. And if they have run out of healing items, they will need to purchase 2 croissants.
Yes, because everyone likes croissants.
Tutelar is now about to enter the fight we affectionately refer to as Shack Fight. It consists of 2 insane cultists and a crow. You get the Franklin badge from Paula, and your best friend Pokey has shown back up and will lead you into the fight. When you're in the fight, typically you lead off with a rocking alpha and hope it kills everyone. That's the ideal situation. But then from there, depending on how much damage has been dealt, you can either bash it out or do another rocking, depending on who's left. Fortunately for Tutelar, the call for help was before the first rocking went off, allowing 2 of the cultists to be killed and letting him bash out the rest of the fight. He now has a little bit of extra psychic points, which could play in his favor when it comes to Carpainter, depending on how the second cultist fight goes.
It also looks like the crow stole one of his croissants, which he can get a spare one inside of the House of Paint. The other thing is, any cultists you see on the overworld are unrunnable due to the fact of the Shack Fight being an unrunnable fight in the game, since it's driven by story. All mobs marked as cultists are unrunnable.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Sometimes the cultists will spawn in the cave between Shack Fight and Happy Happy Village, and you can green swirl it, but you can't run.
And this is probably one of the most dangerous fights in the Boogie Percent route are the Shack fight and this particular cultist fight, as they can rapidly spiral out of control.
Tutelar will now be engaging with Mr. Carpainter, and Mr. Carpainter is a scripted fight. Every third turn, there will be lightning being used. Every sixth turn, I believe it's the sixth turn, will be life up. So once the runners become familiar with the cycles in the fight, they can use it to their advantage and heal up on the appropriate turns and deal with what's coming around.
Another interesting glitch with the crashing boom attack, aka the lightning attack, is you never want to life up on that turn due to the glitch in the game. It can reflect your healing as well. So don't life up on lightning.
Tutelar is now set up fantastically for a death warp after picking up Paula with only having about, I think it was 37 HP or something around there. He has his choices of where to death warp, either out in Peaceful Rest Valley for a more guaranteed death, or into Lilliput Steps, where most runners will go to face a mole that can become quite absent-minded and attempt a death warp after that. Now we'll see how namux deals with the House of Paint.
I don't know about you, but anytime I get through that cultist fight, I always breathe a sigh of relief.
I do too. It's nice to know I'm through it and pretty much guaranteed to move further unless I get some really bad lightning RNG.
Oh no. Tutelar got rid of the Holmes hat. Normally you either de-equip or something like that for Boogie, but...
Well, it's actually not that bad of a situation. Personally, I throw out the Holmes hat too. The amount of defense it provides in contrast to Boogie's attacks, it's really not going to save you that much. And namux has set up pretty nicely right now, unless he gets the major life up now. We'll see what comes around very shortly. Unfortunately, it was the large life up, so we'll see what namux chooses for a death warp as well. Tutelar having a pretty good death warp there. All set back to Tucson. We'll need to withdraw $100 to revive Paula, and that's pretty much the money you need for the rest of the run. The extra is typical of a full glitchless run, where you need $300 for purchasing later on, but you only need $100 to revive there.
And the rest of Tucson is just a lot of story, saying bye to Paula's dad, going and checking out our best bud Everdread, and finally going and checking an awesome concert.
It looks like namux is going to be using your preferred method of transferring the defensive items to Paula and probably re-equipping them after healing at the hospital.
There's several different options. The other thing you can also do is just de-equip them on Ness.
Ooh, and unfortunately the spawn was not there. namux could be in for a rough time depending on how aggressive the mole is going to be. The mole playing rough has an opportunity to size up the situation and confuse itself, which can waste a lot of turns. That's why Ness uses the ATM card, because it can kill the mole really quickly, and Paula will hit for one and knock it back into its senses. Personally, with the amount of HP namux had, I probably would have gone out to Peaceful Rest Valley and tried to die on some encounters out there.
That's the other good thing about Earthbound is there's there's input breaks frequently enough through the run that if you're don't want to learn a RPG just because you're like, well, I got to be sitting down for 6+ hours always, I can't leave. Earthbound does have breaks here and there, this being one of them.
Now, in the Japanese version of this game, Mother 2, the Runaway 5 is known as the Tanzura brothers and dressed in sleek black suits. I've asked all the previous commentators, I'm going to ask you, what do you prefer? The Tanzura brothers in all sleek black suits, or the Runaway 5 in the Mario and Luigi style?
I know which one I prefer, but the thing is, in the United States, that's going to be a lawsuit because of the Blues Brothers. Which they're clearly referencing no matter what, but that's the other thing about Earthbound is they do have a lot of good references. Yeah, if you didn't think that Pokey got replaced by Everdread as the best friend ever of Ness, Pokey never gave us, loads of money. Just wanted us to meet some friends of his that made us sit down for a chat, man. The other thing that you'll notice the runners doing is avoiding photo skips. Avoiding photo triggers, excuse me. Where you're going to meet everyone's favorite character, the cameraman, and say the characteristic line for these pickles, unfortunately it's a time loss, so we don't want to do that.
Yeah, the runners can either swing right, like you saw, and go around and go above or below the lamppost. There's also a few runners who would go left side busting, completely avoid any risk of crossing the photo trigger. Now that the Runaway Five have dropped off Ness and Paula in this gloomy town called Threed, they're going to make their way up to the graveyard and try to visit two zombies up there without getting into any encounters. The graveyard can be quite heavy with spawns, and by walking in certain ways, you're able to avoid the spawn plates. If you do get an encounter, you can survive, and if Paula levels up, you can use fire strats on Boogie 10. Fire strats is where you have Paula levels up and gets fire, and you can use that instead of freezing.
The scary thing is the graveyard has these fly spawns which love to hide in little corners on you, and especially behind trees and whatnot, and then just sneak up on you and say, "Hey, what's up?" Affectionately known as ninja flies.
They're very popular up in that upper section where they can completely hide and you have no idea.
Now it's time for Ness to learn a very important life lesson. Don't follow a random stranger all the way into a hotel room late at night.
Now that Ness and Paula are stuck in a prison, Paula has used her psychic abilities to call out to a friend she has never met, and we now get to meet quite a controversial character, Jeff. Some of the members of the community love him, some more than others hate him, and some are Jeff neutral, depending on how you feel about him.
So how do you feel about Trash?
I like Trash. Trash can be useful. I'm more on the neutral side. I waver back and forth depending on how Jeff is treating me on that run. Because in my opinion, Jeff is the best and the worst character at the same time.
Jeff is a proponent of RNG, and he breaks my heart every time.
Now, in this brief sequence here, Maxwell has given you a busted key that he knows doesn't work and makes Jeff attempt to open the locker. And then when Jeff comes back, we'll give him the proper device to handle it.
after we get the hated enemy of all speedrunners, Bubble Monkey, and his poor movement patterns, we have to make our way down to a tent. Fortunately, there's a couple spawn plates out there, and there's 3 possible spawns. There's the crows, which we've seen the crows movement before. There's dogs, which we've seen dog movement before. And then there's also a new enemy called the rams. And you never want to get ram tough. It's always going to be a bad thing. If you have to take any of the fights, I would recommend taking the dog, because the dogs also have a chance to drop a bread roll if you cannot avoid the fight. Tutelar skipping the extra text of fixing the broken spray bottle turns into defense spray. It's a nice safety for newer runners if you want to sell it in 3. But it does save time to do that. Now, for those of you familiar with the Earthbound run, it's time to get ready for Tessie hype. Show me your MS Paint piece in chat, please. Once again, another input break, so if you need to get up, stretch, whatnot, during this early section, they come pretty in a short window, but game has a lot of input breaks if you're just learning even just the Boogie percent, which is a nice short run. Kind of a nice beer and pretzels intro to the game.
Thank you for that brief moment of silence for the majestic Tessie. Now at this point, when you continue on, most runners will move diagonal down left. That is to avoid a 100% spawn plate of a gruff growth in between those trees. By moving that, you avoid the spawn and are allowed to move into Brick Road for the toughest boss in the game, the worthless protoplasm.
Like several other enemies that you've already seen before in this run, the Antoids, the Cultists, these guys love to call for help. And you can quickly spiral into a nasty, nasty fight, as I just cursed. I'm sorry. And once you get 2 on screen, you typically want to try and get out of that fight as quickly as you can by running away.
The worst part about this fight is the worthless protoplasm has 27 speed, and at this point you start off with a negative chance to run. Around turns 5 and 6, you do have an opportunity to run that you're high enough in the rounds, because you gain about 10% chance each time. And with that 1 HP runaway, looks like Tutelar is attempting duck skip, where you lure the duck low enough and hope that you're able to get around before the duck moves up.
Sometimes, man, duck skip is just not all it's quacked up to be.
And unfortunately for Tutelar, Bubble Monkey got in the way of second protoplasm skip.
Looks like he did the leash movement right before he made the duck down. And on Namux's screen, we have the second appearance of Tessie, and the last appearance of Tessie that we will have during this race.
After Brick Road is Pond Cave, 3-segmented cave, which you need to focus on avoiding all enemy encounters unless you happen to get into a single slug. Jeff has enough offense to instantly kill that single slug. Ideally, you just don't want to get into any encounters here because the Rowdy Mouse are back, which can smash for a lot. Crocodiles will murder you, and the mushrooms later on can confuse you and just put a hinder on your movement. Some runners will choose to aggressively stutter step in this middle section here, which can get you trapped if you stutter into a forward spawn or a mushroom that doesn't care about your stutter stepping and will charge you. And unfortunately for Namux, he took a death to in Brick Road there, so we'll see how he recovers from that.
Yep, hardest enemy in the game.
I didn't pay attention, but maybe he used the boiled egg the first time around, and that leaves no healing items for the second time around, unfortunately.
Yeah, your healing items are really limited in that Brick Road. You have one past the duck, which there is a croissant there if you really want it, but
Fortunately, the duck has a lot of opportunities to waste a lot of turns, and you just hope it doesn't be aggressive and attack for around 12 each turn.
the good news is once you clear out these enemies in Brick Road, they do not respawn. So even if you take a death, as long as you've defeated those enemies, you should be able to get through them. And nice Proto 2 skip. So just quick segment about the Stonehenge area. There is a photo trigger out there. You can run faster than the cave boys. Just don't get stuck on stuff. You should be able to get through it as long as your pathing is good. And then you'll enter the lab over here, talk to Dr. Nuts, Jeff's father, then start the Skyrunner. It's very important that if, again, during another one of these input breaks, you want to make sure that the Skyrunner is shaking before you leave. Something you don't want to do is put the controller down, leave the room, and forget that you haven't started the Skyrunner sequence.
One of the benefits of this long input break is the awesome music. This is personally one of my favorite tracks, along with the Moonside track. Do you have any personal favorite tracks from Earthbound?
I'm a big fan of the Runaway 5 theme, honestly, is probably one of my favorites, and then I do love a lot of the remixes.
Ooh, the
Good
Runaway
classic
5
remix of Tucson or Onet. Good.
There is a lot of good music in this game.
Gets the green swirl with Bubble Monkey. Nice.
That is one of the rare benefits of Bubble Monkey, since the enemies do focus on Jeff. You can sometimes strategically use Bubble Monkey to get the green swirl, but more often than not, it's just pure luck. Now that the Skyrunner has crashed, Jeff is going to introduce himself and join the party. From there, the runners will be making preparations for the fight for Boogie Tent. There is a trash can teddy bear right outside, and there is an arms dealer which can sell additional bottle rockets if you feel the need for safety, and then you will be fighting Boogie Tent. Each runner for that fight has a couple of different options. Two of the most popular are Nest Defend, Paula Defend, and Jeff used the big bottle rocket to get that off, trying to ensure that Jeff doesn't die if he were to be attacked. Or Nest to use Rocking, Paula to use Freeze or Fire if that's available, and Jeff to use the big bottle rocket, helping for a one-round kill.
Yep, it's very archetypal of this game, this fight and the strat you use. You can either just go for it sometimes, or you can play it safe. And sometimes you'll get punished. Either way.
One of the worst things that can happen at this point is for Boogie Tent to lead off with a flash and to confuse Jeff, and Jeff to kill someone with a bottle rocket.
Oh, got the solidify with the freeze.
Unfortunately, the bottle rocket did not hit, but the Rockings did hit enough to take down Boogie Tent, and this will be going to Tutelar. Good game, Tutelar. That was a good run and some nice recoveries from the deaths you had earlier on. I do see a question in the chat. The bottle rockets can miss. The chance of it hitting is based off of Jeff's speed versus the enemies, and the roles that happened in the battle there. And Tutelar has finished with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 41 seconds.
But rockets can also miss, so. Both rockets and rockets can miss. Unless I'm incorrect there.
Yeah, they'll miss when you don't want it to happen at the wrong moment there. It always happens. All right, we'll see how namux prepares for the boogie tent fight, and we'll see what happens. And looks like he will have chicken percent as well.
Confirmed chicken percent? So yeah, this little neat trick that I learned, see, I can't remember if it's Serum, Hunter, or D-Rock who said it. Coming out of the graveyard, go get the teddy bear and just go diagonal left down. It won't get lost, you'll go past the first tent in the circus. Just an easier way to remember it every time.
Yeah, that's a very good way to remember. Just watch out for some of the spawns that can happen along the way. Ooh, and a very nice big bottle rocket off of Jeff there. That was enough to take out the tent on itself with 579 HP in total for the tent.
Yeah.
I wish I had those bottle rockets more often. And looks like namux has finished with an official SRL time of 1 hour and 19 minutes flat. Well, that was a nice, exciting race. I'd like to thank the tournament organizer, Daniel RTT, and the admins, D-Rock, Temple, Andy Perfect, for all their work that they put into this, and for Fiesel for letting us be here on Speed Gaming. I really appreciate it.
Well, I believe that was the last race for Earthbound tonight. There's plenty more in the next couple days. I think there's one even tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Earthbound.
Yeah, that will be F. Coughlin versus Richmond 3MM. And that will be on Speed Gaming 1. Other than that, I think that wraps it up for tonight. I'd like to thank you for joining me here in commentary. It was fun and a great time, and I appreciate you helping me out with it.
Well, I appreciate being here. And once again, may your swings always be smashes, and may Jeff not screw up the bottle rockets for a change.
Oh, I love that. Have a great evening or a day, everyone, depending on where you're at.